There's a persistent myth online that recording in a bathroom sounds fantastic. Today I'm going to explain to you why it doesn't sound fantastic, and I'm going to show you for yourself what it sounds like to record in a bathroom compared to a properly treated room, and then I'm going to give you an explanation as to why this myth is so persistent. I'm standing in a well-treated vocal booth that we have set up in the live room, and I have this really good mic for recording vocals set up, but we're not recording that. What you're hearing is all coming through the lav that I'm wearing, and it being farther away from me, you'll hear some of the room reflections that are around, but you shouldn't be hearing a whole lot right now, and I'm not monitoring it, so I don't know exactly what you're hearing. But a vocal booth is actually a bit of a misnomer because usually in studios, you don't put people in a really small enclosed room and then record them. It just doesn't happen like that. So now I'm going to bring you into the handicap bathroom at Smith Music, which is the larger of the two bathrooms, and I'm going to show you how horrible it sounds, even with just this lav mic. And I'm going to do some guitar recording in there so that you can hear an acoustic instrument in a bathroom and how poorly it sounds. I'm standing here in the center of the handicap washroom at Smith Music, which is about 7 by 7. This is the larger of the two washrooms here. And this would be like a small home washroom. And it's 7 by 7 with an 8-foot ceiling. So this is almost a square box, about the worst dimensions possible to record in. But, and you're just hearing me from this lav mic, but I have the door open, so some of the sound is going out there. It's gonna get even worse sounding now. So now with the door shut, you can probably hear even more ringing in this microphone. People have been known to use public washrooms, which are much bigger, for getting reflective reverb sounds and cool effects. I have zero issue with that, and I would do that myself if I, went in one and I thought, and it was in the recording studio, and I thought, yeah, this is going to be a great effect. That's not what I'm talking about. General purpose recording, I can't imagine wanting to record anything in here from a personal comfort standpoint to just how it sounds, but I will show you how an acoustic guitar sounds in here. So here's what it sounds like in a properly treated room. This is the best description that I can give the everyday recording artist as to why recording in a bathroom or a closet or even any small room is a really bad idea, because they all follow basically the same thing. Now, this science part is the weakest part of my skill set by far. I've worked really hard to understand the math side, which I don't fully. There's people that really, they get into that in very much minutia, but I understand it on a very usable level, a level that just is information that I can understand and put together with other pieces of the puzzle for recording, and I'm going to give you that understanding. Now, if I steer you wrong, if somebody watches this that really does understand the math side, and that I've steered people wrong, I definitely want you to write it in the comments. That's what I love about this format, because I don't want to be spreading misinformation. I've consulted with some really top-level room treatment and acoustic experts in the past and learned a fair bit about it. So I'm doing my best. This is the top view of basically the bathroom that we recorded in. And there's a side view, and it was basically a square box. So I've drawn it not to scale, but as basically a square box. And there's a principle that we need to understand, something called phase, in order to make any of this make sense. So I've drawn out two waveforms. This is how a waveform looks in your DAW. If you hit a snare drum, it'll look something like this. Now, the top one here is a representation of like an average snare hit, where you'll hit it and it goes up. There's a lot of transient, a lot of volume that's registered. And now if you take that track and copy it, and you can try this in your DAW, copy that track to another track, and then take the polarity of that second track and flip it. What happens then is, as the waveform is going up for the first one, it's going down for the second one. And what you will get, no matter how much you turn up the volume, if they're the same, you'll get complete silence. And this is a great testing tool. So with phase, this is called phase cancellation, where basically my understanding, and this might not be right, but I'm pretty sure that it is that basically one track is trying to push your speaker out, and the other one is trying to pull it in, and they totally nullify each other because they're doing exactly the same thing. So you are getting signal through your system, you're actually just not getting speaker movement. Now that might be happening where it's nullifying sooner, like in the electronics, I'm not sure. But that's my basic understanding. The toilet that I recorded on is basically back in this corner, like so. And here's my wonderful drawing. Guitar was basically like that. And the microphone was here. And from a side view, you have a toilet something like this. And you have a guitar kind of like that. And let's put the mic over here. As you can see, these are totally to scale and absolutely realistic drawings. So when you play a guitar and your microphone is here, sound resonates off of the entire guitar, the soundboard being the most important part of it, but the neck, everything vibrates. The sound hole is really just a bass port. It's not the best place to mic an acoustic. So the whole instrument is making noise. Some of it's getting to the mic, and it's going out in all directions, even off of the back. Same thing happens here. It goes up and hits the ceiling. It goes down and hits the floor, comes out, hits the microphone. It goes past the microphone. It goes out in every single direction. And then what happens is it finds a hard surface. So we're going off the ceiling here. Man, this marker is not doing good. Okay. So we're going off the ceiling, and then we're coming back, and this is hitting the microphone. And this is where the problem starts. Same thing here. So this is going out to the wall, hits the wall, comes back, and hits the microphone at a different angle. And that creates what's called comb filtering. And then there's another thing called ringing that I don't really understand, but comb filtering will get you there, the understanding of that. As the sound, so there's direct sound to the microphone, and then there's sound off of that bounces off the wall that hits the microphone. The sound that's from the wall is actually at a different time because it takes more time for it to travel to the wall and then to the microphone. But you get a little bit of this effect where some of the frequencies are exactly the same at this point in time where those two frequencies intersect. And so some frequencies will be canceled out partially or fully, but then other ones will actually be exaggerated because if you take, in our phase example, if you take a track like this and you copy it exactly, you get an increase in volume. I think it's 3 decibels, but I'm not totally sure about that. So you'll have some frequencies that are like low frequencies, let's say, are getting filtered out, some low frequencies, but other frequencies are getting exaggerated because they're both hitting at relatively the same amount of time. So that's one of the major issues that happens, is that you're getting certain frequencies that are a lot louder and certain frequencies that are much quieter than they actually are coming off of the guitar. So because when you're playing the guitar, you're going directly into the mic and the sound is bouncing off of all the walls and all that gets to the microphone and your ears, by the way, what happens is you get some frequencies that are quieter than they actually are from the instrument and some that are much louder, and it starts to make this really inaccurate sound of the instrument. Now, in a room like this, it's really exaggerated where you can definitely hear the room and all of and I think this is called ringing, where certain frequencies are getting exaggerated and you can hear them a lot more. So even if you just look at this from a comb filtering and not a ringing standpoint, you can see why this is an issue for sure. Now I'm going to show you how this works in a well-treated room. Let's do the vocal booth. So when I recorded in there, this is basically what you're hearing. Is a much bigger room. So this is 8:16, which is actually a horrible ratio, but all of the walls are a foot thick of absorbing material, except this back wall back here. So we have a foot thick, except for a doorway. Aren't you just loving my drawing? Okay, so we have a foot thick of sound absorbing all the way around. So these rooms are not meant to be isolated. They're meant to be sound absorbing because it would be cost prohibitive and it wouldn't have made it make sense for all the movable walls, because I wanted places where I can get sound if I need it to be very dead, where it can be, and I can manipulate the sound of the room. So all of these 4-foot panels that I have that are movable are, and there we go, are absorbing panels. So you don't get the ringing off of the walls. But then what I was standing in is I had at head height something like sound absorbers like that. There is enough room to get back behind here. Microphone here. Now, I don't have anything on the ceiling. The ceiling is 15 feet high, so I'm not super concerned about that. And there's the mic. Okay. Now, this also is in, so I have 3 of these in a row, 3 rooms like that in a row. The one we're standing in is in the middle. And this is also in a bigger 2,500 square foot room. So I played guitar here, sound going out this way, camera was here, mic was here. This is actually the recording booth mic for vocal, but this was where I recorded guitar. And so sound would go in all directions, including to the ceiling. And instead of coming back to the microphone, and no room is perfect, but in general, it's actually getting absorbed and then traveling through and getting absorbed again, in all directions like that, except with this ceiling that's 15 feet away. And as it comes back, it's much quieter and it's getting absorbed by some of the diffusion that's up higher and around it, because this absorption goes to the ceiling. So there's much less comb filtering because we do have the floor. I have carpet on the floor, which is not. It absorbs some small amount of frequencies that are very unimportant. But there will be some reflections coming off the floor and to the microphone. But there's enough absorption that it makes a difference that you're not just hearing all this ringing. This is a very exaggerated absorption scheme. Like, there's a lot of absorption here. This is not how everybody does a vocal booth, and there's many ways to do it, but this is basically set up for a lot of absorption, and this is how I do it 80% of the time. So for a proper vocal booth, if we have a very large live room or any size live room, typically what's happening is you'll have a microphone and vocalist here. And then you'll have panels of absorption all the way around them, and sometimes in front. And on top, there'll actually be a roof setup that they can put on to absorb, so that when the singer sings, you basically have sound going out and getting absorbed. It's not coming back to the mic. It's going out and bouncing off and getting absorbed out here. And same thing from the ceiling, and generally not from the floor when you have that much absorption going on. But when you see it on TV, you have a camera here, and they zoom in to there. So this is what they're seeing, and then you see this small room. But generally, people are actually in a bigger room. Now, there are times where there will be, an ISO booth over in the corner with glass so people can see each other, or they'll be in one corner. And they'll be as treated as they can get, because sometimes that is the keeper vocal take, and that's what you get. But oftentimes, you know, they're singing along with the band, and this is scratch tracks, and then they come out into the live room and they set up like this to get the real vocal takes. So from this, seeing people record in what look like small booths, people, you know, start to think, well, I can turn my closet into a vocal booth, or I can turn my bathroom into a vocal booth, and it just doesn't work. The other thing that happens is that when people walk in, or they sing in the shower or anything like that, it's the one room that they can actually hear some acoustics happening. They can hear some resonance off the wall. That doesn't mean that it sounds good, but it's the one place they can actually hear it. If they're in their living room or they're in a bedroom, and there is some absorption through, like, you know, bedding and or, you know, bookshelves, but there's no effective room treatment. Don't mistake that for effective room treatment. But they hear some acoustics and assume that it must be really good, and it's not. It quite frankly is not. This is a conversation that I have with a lot of clients, and lay people off the street, and anybody that's talking about recording music very often is about how awesome their bathroom sounds in, and they sing in it and they think it sounds wonderful. And it's a great place to practice, and if you like how it sounds, that's fine, but don't record in it. They just really sound bad unless you're going for that as an effect. And please like and subscribe to the channel. That really does help. I hope you got to learn something today, and I want to learn from you guys in the comments. So if I've gotten anything wrong here, leave it in the comments. I would love to learn some more about this too, because like I said, the scientific side, that's definitely my weak point with recording.